We are born into a world that from the very first moment is telling us how to behave. From our initial breath, we are conditioned and molded into a way of being, often pulled one way or another. As we journey through our lives, we are subject to daily stress and the pressures of expectation and responsibility. We can become anxious and fearful, often dwelling in the past or worrying about the future, rarely enjoying the present. How can we learn to lead a more peaceful life? How can we remain in alignment when tossed and turned by the unpredictable nature of life's challenges? And how can we take ownership of our lives? In today's world of increasing complexity and uncertainty, where technology is replacing human connection, we learn from the age-old practice of mindfulness how to remain fully engaged in the present moment. By consciously directing our attention and, without judgment, encouraging a moment-to-moment awareness of thoughts, feelings, bodily sensations and the surrounding environment, we become a witness to the mind. And we can then enjoy the gift of the golden present. Mindfulness is no longer hidden in ancient spiritual texts, monasteries and ashrams, but is practiced by millions of people the world over. Join us as we awaken to the power of the present moment and the magic that enables us to make peace with who we are, right now, in this moment.
In 1973, I discovered a place called the Academy for Continuous Education and enrolled on a year's residential course to study natural medicine, ecology, science and meditation. And it was a unique moment in history, in my history, where we had doctors and thinkers, people coming from all over the world. We were about 100 students at a time at Sherborne, and they came to teach homeopathy and meditation and about ecology. I call them the founding fathers of the holistic movement that we have today. And there was a Cambodian monk of the Thai forest tradition, Bhante. He was a doctor, and he came to teach the mindfulness to us because he said that with mindfulness we don't miss an opportunity. And that really struck me. We don't miss an opportunity. And that's when I began to understand that there's so much more potential within us that we don't even know about because we don't give ourselves the time to even know it's there. He was bringing refugees out of Cambodia, bringing them to England, and then he got everybody to the United States, and he went off and stayed with them as their spiritual guide until he died at a youthful 112 years old. So obviously the mindfulness worked for him. And that was the beginning for me of having a daily practice. We're going to begin our meditation by first of all taking 3 deep breaths. And as we do, we're just letting go of the activities of the day so far. And we start by putting our awareness of outside of these gardens. We're aware of the bay below us, very old trees, the waterfalls. We can hear the sounds of the birds. Although we say that mindfulness meditation is for the reality of life, you want to be able to call on it and use it, you know, in the middle of Piccadilly Circus, in the middle of Main Street. Yes. We don't have to go off on retreat to a mountaintop to be able to practice meditation. But at the end of the day, nature is part of who we are. And nature gives us so much that we don't even see, that we're not aware of. And we draw in to our own physical presence. We're aware of the ground under the soles of our feet, the feeling of the rock underneath where we may be sitting. I think this is the important thing with the mindfulness. It's what we can give, and giving with gratitude for being able to give to others and in particular to our environment. And so we need to expand beyond, you know, other people. The next stage on for us is being able to look at the environment in the same way. Love is the lack of judgment. And really, until we can feel that for nature as much as we feel it for ourselves, our own children, and the people that we love around us, this is probably what we're supposed to be doing now. It's called evolution. Yeah. And this is probably our next stage in evolution. Now we're aware that the air that we breathe is one and the same air shared by all living things. That the air gives itself to all of us freely, unconditionally. And we're aware that these trees around us, that at this moment we're having an exchange. The trees are providing oxygen for us to breathe. And in return, we provide the trees with CO2. So there's this constant exchange between the trees and living things. At the end of the day, you have to make your own commitment to yourself. If you come to mindfulness because you're living in pain, or you have a terminal disease or chronic illness that you live with, it's much easier. You're willing to make the commitment because you know then how precious life really is. If you have a fairly, easy life, or we allow the stress to take over and say, oh no, I haven't got time to do it this morning, then that's a shame. We have to somehow find that within us to make the commitment. There's really no easy fix to that, but I can promise you that if you take even 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day is enough, because you'll want more and you'll want more, and something begins to shift and change. We feel, this breathing in, I arrive in my body, breathing out, I'm home. There's this feeling of home when we connect with the breath. And we find that, life slows down, and yet we still have time to get everything done, but with a much better quality. We have a better quality of life. We don't judge. We take it as an opportunity to come back to our rising and falling. Our breath, our present moment. We could just perhaps take a walk around here and hold on to this awareness of the exchange of energies between these very old trees and ourselves. You know, the Native Americans call the trees the standing people. The Shinrin-yoku, or the forest bathing that we did, walking through the trees, stopping and being with the trees. It's all about the transformation of energies. It's that law of thermodynamics. Energy is neither created nor destroyed, it's transformed. So this is happening throughout nature all the time. And it's only the human being that has forgotten that. Yes. I just hope that really the mindfulness is picking up such a wonderful momentum, and it spreads enough for enough people to make a change regarding the climate change, to a place where perhaps we can start thinking for 7 generations ahead of us, and not just for our own lifetime.
What's been happening.
That's really the important, yeah.
Thank you, Laurie. Thank you, all of you.
Thank
actually.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for sharing.
When somebody has a difficult thought, a negative, pessimistic thought, an angry thought or whatever, if they bring themselves and steady themselves in this moment, feeling this seat supporting them, noticing that there, noticing their feet on the floor, noticing the gentle rises and falls of breath. You can't do a million things simultaneously, so that presence of moment will actually interrupt the flow of thoughts inside of their minds, and it will release, instead of the negative thoughts releasing cortisol, which they do. So in any given moment, on any given day, we can place our thoughts wherever we wish, and people forget that they have that power of choice. But when we're dwelling on negativity or anger or emotions that really don't serve us, we release something called cortisol. Cortisol is pro-cancer, pro-diabetes, pro-arthritis, and pro-aging. Not good. Cortisol is also an inflammatory, and it's acid in our bodies. So our thoughts can alkalize us or acidify us. When we make cortisol, which is made in our adrenal glands, we cannot make a wonderful thing called DHEA, dehydroepiandrosterone, which is made from the same base ingredient as cortisol. So we're making one or the other, but we're not making both. DHEA generally travels with serotonin, the happy hormone. And DHEA is anti-inflammatory, it's anti-cancer, anti-diabetes, anti-arthritis, and it's anti-aging. A wonderful thing to be releasing in our minds. So in the moment that someone feels negative or angry, frustrated, irritated with something, they can bring themselves into a mindful moment to just settle themselves in their bones. And in the moment that they settle in their bones and become mindful of their breath and the body and it being supported by the seat, the feet, within their shoes or their sandals or upon the floor, then you've interrupted the flow of thoughts and you've taken cortisol out and you've lifted in DHEA and serotonin. So this is why NICE, the National Institute of Clinical Excellence, recommends mindfulness as a practice rather than an antidepressant.
spend every morning identifying 3 things that you are grateful for about yourself or your life at this moment in time. And then, when you go to bed, spend 5 minutes is all it takes for 3 things that you are grateful for that happened in that day, grateful things. And if there's anything that's not good that happened in that day, face it, come to terms with it, see what it can be done to resolve it, and close that page. But the most important thing is gratitude. Gratitude is actually scientifically proven to make the body heal itself whenever you're feeling any emotional distress. The feeling of gratitude can shift the composition of your cells, because essentially we're all made of energy and we are responsible for our emotions. That can lead to the cells in our body responding to the emotions that we feel, which is why many doctors say if you feel extreme amounts of stress, the amount of cortisol that is released in your body is going to result in you being diseased. Which is why even many doctors are relying on meditation and mindfulness now, and are recommending this to their patients because it alleviates you from feeling any levels of stress, any feelings of worry, any feelings of guilt or shame, you know, so that you can really live fruitfully and flourish. The whole point of coming onto this planet is to flourish. We were not here to wake up and live half-heartedly. We were here to flourish, and if that's my message to any young person or any individual for that matter, is that you were born to flourish, and may you always have that in your mind and in your heart.
One day, or day one,
Yes.
your choice, not a decision.
Yes.
Your
Why
choice.
delay it? Why delay it for that day that hasn't come yet?
Exactly.
When we have today, this present moment.
And it becomes very manageable. And then you visualize such a simple quote. If you decided one day, it's something you want to do or you aspire
Eventually,
to,
yeah.
or
Possibly,
it's there, something you'd like. But how many times we spend or waste our lives, our years, on I would like to do this, to getting to a stage in your life I would have liked to have.
Yes.
You know, so wishing or regretting, you miss it. You have this one life, this one moment. There's no guarantee to the length of your life, but the quality, that you have a leading role in, regardless what you've been dealt.
Yes.
How many times do you see people that are really quite disfavored in life and they have the right mental attitude? That's part of mindfulness.
What we are actually naturally good at. You know, I always, and you've probably heard this, follow your bliss. You know, don't listen to everyone else's expectations. Who am I? And that can go as deep as you want it to go. But on a more surface level, who am I and what is my calling? What is my natural calling, not what's expected? And I think a lot of people lose touch with that sense of inner calling and natural creative expression, and try and be something that society, family, teachers, partners and friends expect.
So a mindful practice is...
Mindfulness brings us back here, because when we're doing mindfulness meditation, we're still, we're quiet. We're allowing relaxation through the muscular, skeletal system of the physical body. We're noticing our breath. And in that silence, we can suddenly become aware of how much noise there is inside. And through practicing mindfulness, that noise starts to reduce until we come to that beautiful place of inner silence. And it's only when we're in that wonderful place of inner silence that the intuition, the tuition that's coming from inside, can be heard and felt and then expressed out naturally in the gifts that are given so freely. by the divine, the gifts that the life we're born to live.
In the beautiful words of Kim McKillen, as I began to love myself, I found that anguish and emotional suffering are only warning signs that I was living against my own truth. Today, I know this is authenticity. As I began to love myself, I understood how much it can offend somebody if I try to force my desires on this person, even though I knew the time was not right and the person was not ready for it, and even though this person was me. Today, I call it respect. As I began to love myself, I stopped craving for a different life, and I could see that everything that surrounded me was inviting me to grow. Today, I call it maturity. As I began to love myself, I understood that at any circumstance, I am in the right place at the right time, and everything happens at exactly the right moment. So, I could be calm. Today, I call it self-confidence. As I began to love myself, I quit stealing my own time, and I stopped designing huge projects for the future. Today, I only do what brings me joy and happiness, things I love to do and that make my heart cheer. And I do them in my own way and in my own rhythm. Today, I call it simplicity. As I began to love myself, I freed myself of anything that is no good for my health. Food, people, things, situations, and everything that drew me down and away from myself. At first, I called this attitude a healthy egoism. Today, I know it is love of oneself. As I began to love myself, I quit trying to always be right. And ever since, I was wrong less of the time. Today, I discovered that is modesty. As I began to love myself, I refused to go on living in the past and worrying about the future. Now, I only live for the moment, where everything is happening. Today, I live each day, day by day, and I call it fulfillment. As I began to love myself, I recognized that my mind can disturb me and it can make me sick. But as I connected it to my heart, my mind became a valuable ally. Today I call this connection wisdom of the heart. We no longer need to fear arguments, confrontations, or any kind of problems with ourselves or others. Even stars collide, and out of their crashing, new worlds are born. Today I know that is life.